Welcome to the Sabbath Life podcast. This is a space where we share stories about the Abbey of the Heights, the Christian contemplative traditions and rhythms of life that make us more human and friends with time. I'm Peter White, and I'm one of the hosts of the Abbey of the Heights, a Christian retreat space in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And today I'm joined by my friends Tim and Katrina Matthews. Do you all want to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about the work that you all do?
Yes. So we lead the organization called Wonderful, of course. And what we do is twofold. Is we create accessible spaces of prayer and we help cultivate ongoing church unity. And we focus a lot on the word accessible with Wonder because what we want to do is we want spaces where people can get together with God anywhere, no matter what kind of walk of life you're from.
And for Sabbath Life, that looks like the Pure Garden.
Yeah.
So, uh, in conjunction with and partnership with 24/7 Prayer.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, the reason I wanted to talk to you guys was just about the work that you guys have done in curating the prayer stations that we have around the property of the Abbey, especially those outside. And we're so grateful for all the time that you guys have spent working on that and doing that. Do you guys remember how you first came to know about the Abbey and what your first experience here was like?
Oh gosh. At least for me, there's just like a peace that was settled on it. It was like this, I guess you could say like a holy hush type of space. Just walking in, it was just it really did feel like walking into like a holy place, but it was also like homey. It felt like home and it felt holy both at the same time, I guess you could say. It was really cool just like when we had our first stay there. It was just really great to have that space to really like dive in with the Lord. It was safe to like really like dive in. It really felt like a space of prayer that we're like even ourselves are used to putting together. And it was just like really nice to be able to like come into something that wasn't necessarily something that we built, but it was really nice to kind of be at the Abbey there as well.
So
Go ahead.
I was just thinking about what you were saying about a lot of your work is building spaces for people to experience prayer. And it sounds like you found that here, something that you didn't have to build.
Yes, yes. And so one of the funny things is that we make a lot of spaces for other people, but then sometimes it can be really hard when to actually engage in our own spaces because we're always looking at like how we have to like, like like we have to like maintain this thing here. Oh, this is running out of pens, or we need more sticky notes here. And like it was really nice then to go to the Abbey and be like, oh, we don't have to do that.
That was one of the first things I was thinking about that I absolutely adored. Personally, just from a very personal perspective about the Abbey of the Heights, is that yes, there is the area that we worked on and we cultivated, but there's these separate spaces for prayer in the rooms that were so beautifully cultivated with really intentional content. And how did I first come to know about the Abbey? Because I think I had researched it and it was like so bizarre that it was so close to us.
You are the researcher.
But I think that the connection was with Lisa. I think that she had been gifted space there for an overnight, and it was such a blessing. And it cultivated this dream of prayer space inside and out. And I think, unless you remember time with us beforehand, I think we started off getting to know the Abbey through that relationship with 24/7 prayer and bringing prayer stations to the outside. And in that, started to learn about the order of the common life, right? Is that,
Yeah, the
yeah,
order.
and the rhythms that you have there and the retreat space and how beautiful it is. And honestly, how countercultural to have a space to get away and retreat like in the midst of normal life in the midst of the city. And we just like really got to dive deeper into the treasure that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, my memory is that Lisa had stayed here for a personal retreat, and then that we have this it had been a dining room in the previous incarnation of the house, and we had just left a dining room table there. And Lisa's comment was, "Well, this needs to be a prayer room. You need to get rid of
Yeah.
this dining room table. Nobody's using it." And I was like, "Sure, Lisa. What do you have in mind? What do you want to do?" And she brought the two of you along, and
Yeah.
that's the first memory I have of meeting you, is installing the prayer room for the first time. So this would have been, gosh, probably 3, maybe 4 years ago
Yeah, it
now.
was right around the time of the accident, and I remember that we wanted to get the prayer gardens off the ground faster, but it was, like, right when the accident happened. But I
For sure.
remember walking around the gardens with you and dreaming about it, and then digging into it in the heat of the summer instead of the spring because of
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that
But
was
yeah,
really unfortunate timing.
Lisa, yeah.
But
Lisa and ourselves, we're like this weird breed of people where like we'll just like walk into rooms and be like, this could be a prayer
yeah,
space.
pretty much, yeah.
Like we just like the wheels start turning. Oh, this could be forgiveness and
Any nook and cranny, just, like,
yeah,
transform it into
Uh,
prayers.
like it's that's what's been kind of nice like with 24/7 prayer is that there are other people who are like us,
Yes.
you know, and that like these like weird
mhm.
unicorns who also do this sort of thing, but yeah, it's really strange to like to I always wondering like how did I get here? How did I get to like where everywhere I look it's like, oh, that could be a prayer space and that could be a prayer space. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
also
you go ahead,
I
Katrina.
I'm also remembering that even though it was the heat of the summer, like, the community came out
yeah,
for it.
yeah,
They showed up to build that prayer space.
yeah,
It was the coolest thing to see how community gathered for that. Like,
yeah,
we had content, but, like, they came with their hearts and their hands engaged.
yeah. It was kids, adults with shovels and kids with little shovels. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was a couple of full weekends that we had building those wooden signs that
Oh
were
god.
became the
Yeah,
first iteration of the outside
The
prayer
first
stations.
iteration.
and
Yeah.
digging out the Stations of the Crosswalk and
Yeah.
Yeah. You used some language earlier, Tim, about prayer being accessible. Could you say a little bit more to that, especially for people that might be listening who maybe don't know 24/7 prayer or what prayer stations mean? What does it mean for you that prayer is accessible?
Oh gosh. Like prayer we live in a very distracting world where honestly the enemy is constantly vying for our attention.
yeah.
Like we have these little devices that we keep in our pockets that are always like trying to like buzz and ring and get to us, right? And we want to make spaces where anyone can come and get away from that noise, the buzzing, to where like whether it's a public space where anyone like can go to a coffee shop and anyone can go there. And there's a prayer space that we have here in town at She Brews, where it's like a little closet. And if anyone can go and spend time there, no matter like whether you're like a Christian, you've been a Christian your whole life, or you're questioning and you're trying to figure out who this Jesus person is, it's a space that's for anyone from anywhere. But we also are hoping to have spaces in places where it's inaccessible
It's been inaccessible.
and where it's been inaccessible, like prison.
Yeah, or halfway houses, or even how to make prayer accessible for those who maybe are blind, or have different challenges to make that make prayer spaces less accessible. So yeah, we've been digging into how to broaden making prayer accessible.
Yeah.
What would you say drew you into being involved in ministry, prayer ministry like this?
It was never our plan to begin with. It's all Jesus' fault. Gosh,
A prayer room.
it was a prayer room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It,
we
it,
were in a prayer room.
it was we were in a prayer room and it was really just like we had this shared like that Jesus just like downloaded to the two of us like a shared picture of this prayer building where it would have like cafe and meeting spaces and a large prayer room on the second floor and it we were just like back and forth we were just sharing like what we were getting and like oh yeah and then it has this and then oh yeah and then it has this and it and that's really it's what started everything for us.
But then in 2020, when we finally got this kind of like green light inside to get started, but had no way of chasing after that vision, the Lord just said to like start with what you've got.
Yeah.
And so that was where we kind of honed in. Well, like our mission is to create accessible prayer spaces and unity in the church. And so in 2020, we incorporated and just kind of started there. And it slowly, with little directions and little seeds, like you need to get a prayer room on the map, and then happened She Brews, and then like we need a mobile prayer room, and then came the bus, and it just kind of these little things just happened along the way, but it all
Yeah.
started in a prayer room.
The growth has been all God.
Yeah.
Because, Katrina said we started in 2020, but like that's when we started our incorporation, but that's also when the pandemic hit. So it was like this really weird, like, place to be in where God's like saying, go, right? Go make spaces where people can gather and pray, when that was the opposite of what was
When no one could
when no one could really gather, right? But then just through like God connection, like, and just following it, he's saying like, go get on the map, go like make a space. And we're like,
Where?
okay, well, you're gonna have to make that
How?
happen. And then he's like, okay, I'll do that for you. And then he does. Because then he made a God connection for us at She Brews, where like the manager at the time, she had this dream of like, oh, like the God's like wanting her to have a prayer room. And she thought it was
Before
just
we ever talked
before
about
we
it.
ever talked with her. And then
Wow.
as she is like praying, like she meets us, and then she gets really excited because like, oh,
She was literally jumping up and down.
like she's like, the prayer room wasn't for me, it was for everyone.
Mm.
And it was like this really cool God connection. And really that was like a launching point for us to make even more spaces.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, God says like, go here, and we just like, okay, you're gonna have to make it happen, and then he does.
And that's probably been the most peaceful thing about it, is that the things that he asks us to do are usually outside of like my ability to pull off. And so I can kind of go like, well, we're in if you make that
Mm.
happen. So
Mm.
there's some peace in that.
Yeah.
Mm. That sounds really sweet. So when you walk into a space and you're wanting to design this as a prayer space, or like as you were walking around the gardens here at the Abbey, what's kind of your creative process, or what do you what's going on in the inside for you when you do that work?
I almost think of it like like a free write where your creativity just kind of runs loose with pen in hands.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it's like that. It's like you just kind of like let your minds go loose with possibilities, and the space just kind of transforms before your
Okay,
eyes.
it's a little more like
Like
there's a
what
little more depth than that.
I don't
Well,
know. That's kind of what, and then you spend time to pray. That's the first walkthrough,
right,
but
right.
then we spend time
But
to pray.
usually when we've made spaces, it's with people who already have the space, and we're kind of building it for them. And
Mm.
so really it's like listening to them and hearing, just asking questions like, what is your dream for this space? Right? What is like, you kind of reached out to us. So what is your dream for this prayer space? And we listen, we take notes, but then the first step is to clear it out, is make this space as empty as possible and just make it bare bones, like nothing else is added in there. No furniture, nothing hanging on the wall, just like an empty whatever or space it is. And then we invite the people from who are like hosting the site, and then people from our team to pray into the space. And all we leave is a journal
Yeah.
where everyone
Mm.
there for a week can come in and pray, listen, and write down the ideas that come. And then we just like take that notebook and we open it up, and it's like this almost like our,
It's data.
yeah,
Like, in what's really cool is when you see all the overlapping, like you see like, oh, like this came up for this person and this person and this person. And it keeps prayer spaces from being like carbon copies, lather, rinse, repeat. And instead, it gives space to say that, like, this space is being created for this community and it's going to have its own DNA, and God has his own intentions for this space and for this community. And yeah, so that's the beauty of starting that way,
Yeah.
is that God can really take the lead and that the community can all have a say and a part. They've prayed into it. They've already spent time investing spiritually in it even before it gets started.
Yeah. So then we just like take those notes that everyone has written down and we kind of like collect it. And then we like kind of like come up with some ideas that based off of that.
Yeah.
And then we have another meeting with whoever is hosting, and we just kind of plan together. It's like we have like a planning session. This is what we're thinking it's going to be. And we kind of come up with like these are the stations that we're thinking of, and we draw them up. And then after we kind of like agree on what we want in the space and the different stations that we have and what materials we need, and then we just start building.
Yeah.
We
Gather
invite
community.
gather community to kind of jump in, and yeah, and then yeah,
Mm.
it gets built,
And
and then once it's built, we commission it.
yeah, that's a really important piece too.
Yeah,
And it
Yeah.
was so sweet and so lovely to do that at the Abbey of the Heights. So
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. We pray over the space.
Yeah. Do you remember when we were first having conversations, what some of those themes were for the prayer gardens here? Kind of, yeah, almost like the breadcrumbs you were following.
I mean, I remember the Stations of the Cross was very important.
Yeah,
But I also remember like the how exciting it was to dream into that cocoon space with the tall bamboo.
Yeah,
yes,
back when we had the bamboo.
When we
we
had the
got back when you're on
bamboo.
Yeah.
bamboo. Yeah,
And also just even praying into like the opportunities, like the God opportunities that were there for racial justice with its location right next to the
Brady Mansion.
Brady Mansion. If
That's
that's
probably not.
that's not what it's called
It's not
anymore.
what it's called anymore, but
I forget what
Yeah, the
it's called.
Skyline Mansion.
Okay,
Skyline
Skyline
Mansion.
Mansion, but just, like, how significant that placement was and how intentional we felt like the Lord was being in that, for wording. So those were some of the things that, like, instantly come to mind. As the rest, like, filled out creatively, but those were kind of the highlights for me.
Yeah,
And
Mm,
how
mhm,
sweet it was to be able to engage the senses there. Like, that was the first place I'd ever had, like, prayer with the senses, and it seemed so natural in a space where there was such a native garden where, like, things were meant to be edible and meant to be experienced in that way, so that was really cool.
yeah.
uh-huh. Yeah. What do you hope that people experience when they come to the Abbey and walk up to those prayer stations outside?
I think my hope is that like they have some time where they have a conversation with God. Like the stations are there to kind of like there's like a conversation opener. Like
Mhm,
they're just meant to be like, hey, well, have you thought about talking about this with God?
Yeah.
And it's not like the end is not the stations. The end is for conversation with Jesus. And if it's easier for you to just like go find a chair and sit and journal, and the space has been cultivated in such a way where there's that peace for that, go for it. Like, and if the stations are distracting, then like don't use them. But the end goal is for people to talk to Jesus, to have
mhm,
conversation. And so really yeah, they're like these conversation openers. They're challenging, and they ask hard questions like, and it's really up to whoever like is reading them. They like how deep you want to go is up to you.
mhm,
It's like it's yeah. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, they are challenging, and I think that my hope is that when someone approaches those stations, that there's just like a peace and a solitude. I feel like the first word that came to mind was solitude. That there's
hmm,
just like a break from the hurry to be able to actually quiet yourself to ponder the questions. Prayer stations do tend to lead towards questions that dig into uncomfortable spaces, that dig at identity and worldview and how it intersects with our relationship with the Lord and our relationships with others, and it's not comfortable. So I think that my hope is that there would be space set aside and peace to be able to focus in on what the Lord might be doing.
Yeah. Even just
Mm.
taking the time to get there to pray is half the battle.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, there's something that each of you said that really resonated with me. Tim, I really loved what you said about conversation starters. I think I'm going to start telling guests, like, as I introduce these spaces, like, yeah, these are conversation starters with
Yeah.
God.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's just a great way to put it because it is all about having just simply being with God and having something to talk about. I
Mhm.
think particularly if you're the kind of person who has spent a lot of time in church and you do that every Sunday and maybe you go to a small group, you can fall into these kind of just a rut of what prayer is.
Yeah.
And encountering spaces like this kind of can open you up to a new way of talking to God and being
Yes.
with God. And I loved what you were talking to about the senses too, and just being able to use our whole bodies in our prayer is also something that's really unique that we're just not used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Katrina, you were just saying something about taking a break and how hard that is. Can you say some more about that?
About taking space to pray or
Taking
Taking a break to make space to pray in this way.
I mean, I feel like, especially as a mom of like three little kids, like I am
Mm,
acutely aware of how stimulating life is and also like how constant the demand is that, I mean, it can almost feel selfish to take time away, but it is so very important to have that space to bring all the swirling thoughts and feelings to the Lord and set that time aside consistently. I think something Tim and I talk about frequently is that like we don't want to wait until it's too late to take time aside to refresh and to retreat so that it's like now we're having to like really do hard work to get back to an okay place.
yeah.
Like we would rather be intentional to have regular rhythms of taking space so that we can like give the Lord time and space to say like, hey, what if you look at this differently, or what if you spend time in this passage and change how you're approaching this, and that's a healthier, more sustainable life than having to do such hard work at further intervals.
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
So
Yeah. It's better to like take the space before burnout
yes,
than during burnout.
yes, maintain not
Yeah.
being in burnout if
Yeah.
possible.
Because burnout means like, and you go take space. Sometimes that just means like, oh, you just like burned yourself into the ground and now you have to take space because you're not okay.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's something that we've noticed in ourselves and even just like kind of noticing in other people of like taking those like shorter like intervals where you don't have where we don't see ourselves taking a sabbatical after 7 years of ministry. We take like we take retreats almost every year.
Well, we try to take 10 days aside as a family, but then we also are trying to do like at least twice annual overnight retreats, which the Abbey is so lovely for that.
Yeah.
And then having like smaller intervals as we're able, hopefully monthly, to just set aside a morning for prayer entirely, in addition to like just your normal rhythm. So it's just whatever works in your life, but it's not, there's no formula. There's
Yeah.
no formula that fits for everybody. But
Right.
what matters is taking space aside so that you can maintain and rest and be at peace.
Because I think there's something different that happens from when, say, like you have like your every morning devotional or whenever, or every night or whenever you take it, versus taking like an overnight or a week off. Because the Lord's able to do, I feel like, at least from our experience, He's able to do deeper things in us and speak to some of the things that, like, just getting some correction, like,
Yeah.
from Him. Like, even just like this last time we took a week off, like, it was different from other times
It
because
was
other
so
times we've gotten off, he's been like vision casting for us, like, hey, here are some things that are in the future. But this last time, it was like, here's a lot of things I want you to change and fix.
Mm.
And
we were so much healthier for it.
yeah,
We came back like, we love correction. We're so grateful for correction.
Because
Mm,
believe it or not, Jesus has really good ideas. And if you spend some time to listen to him, and
yeah.
you can actually like act on them. But if
Yeah.
you're always moving, then you'll never hear it. Um,
So I think one thing I'm hearing you saying that is sometimes you need a retreat for like planning and visioning and
Mhm.
planning out the next steps. And sometimes you need a retreat for some inner reflection
mhm.
time. And both of them
100
are valuable, but you can't
Yeah.
necessarily do
100%.
both at the same time.
Yes.
And I think the thing that we have learned from our retreats there is that, like, the first time we took a week trip like that, we came with an agenda. We're like, here's the things that we really want to talk to you about. We think that they're very important. And then he's like, no, they're not.
Like, I really wanna talk to you about all of
There's all these
things.
other things that I feel like are more important. And then, after we kind of got over our agenda, we're like, yeah, you're right.
Those really were more important.
Yeah. It's like you've made your little list and then God comes and no, here's my list and
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
dumps it
Yeah.
on the table.
And so
Yeah.
we've kind of come to those retreats without any sort of
We've
like
gotten better at that.
agenda. Yes.
Mm,
Because it's just easier.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
just easier.
Well, let me ask what you think of this. I have found in my conversations, especially with people in ministry, a strong desire to want to get away and take a retreat,
Mhm.
but the actually doing it
Mhm.
is like there's a gap between I want to take a retreat and I did a retreat. So, what kind of encouragement might you give somebody who really wants to, but is finding trouble being able to actually make it happen?
I forget the first time we like really cut away for that longer retreat, and it probably was at more of that crisis point because I personally was like in like fight or flight mode, and I was like, well, if it's like one or the other, then I'd rather run away. But I ran into in
Yeah.
prayer intentionally. And I remember for you the inner struggle of like all the things that would have to happen and all of the sacrifices to carve out that time and to make that leap. And I think it just comes down to a place of saying, like, it is a sacrifice, like, even recognizing it. It is a sacrifice. It's a time sacrifice. It's a money sacrifice. It is a sacrifice, but the sacrifice is worth it. And the payoff is health on the other side and health in your relationship with the Lord and just like a like unblockage of blockages to be able to like move freely with him, and it's so worth the sacrifices. So maybe even spending time to recognize, like, yes, this is really hard to do, that is valid, and it's worth it, you know.
Mm,
I think it's also just modeling ourselves after Jesus. Because in Matthew, we see that after John the Baptist died, his first instinct was to go to the mountainside and pray. Like that was where he wanted to go. And so we took Jesus quite literally and went to a mountainside to pray.
Yeah.
But I think it's like, yeah, it's recognizing your need. It's also part of it is also having faith that he is going to talk to you if you spend time with him. Because like, you go on retreats for your marriage, with your family, with your church, but like, do you really believe that your time with him where he's actually going to talk with you? And if you feel like the answer is like, I don't believe he's going to talk with me, then that's
Mhm.
almost like something where even just stepping out in faith, like, you know what, I don't know if you're going to talk to me, but I'm going to take that step anyway because like I need you. And it's also
mm,
just like this sense of like need and even seeing the need for need. Like I need
Mhm.
to need you. Like, and so the best way to cultivate a relationship with anyone is to spend time with them and
mm,
especially alone with them.
And just to kind of circle back about the Abbey of the Heights, there, like, I think that's something that's so precious in the space that you have there, and in the ministry that you all take time to labor in, is how intentional you have been in setting up the space. Yes, for rest and disconnection, but also with guides and intentional literature presence that that people can really digest and spend time sitting in scripture and questions that point towards the Lord in scripture. And so that it's such a beautiful space to do that. And it's so worth any sacrifice.
Yeah.
We mentioned kind of earlier that we alluded to a first iteration of the prayer stations. And so for listeners, there is a second iteration that is just brand new here in the last couple of weeks here in May of this year. Is there among the new prayer stations or the ones that are out there now, is there a favorite one that you put together?
I think for me, it's the pumps and clogs one. We're next to that old pump that doesn't work anymore. It's just like it's the whole inventorying with the Lord. Like, what is clogging your system with Him
Yeah.
right now? Like,
Mm.
what's blocking your relationship with Jesus, and like working through that with Him to like unclog it,
Yeah.
Mm.
to clear out the system. Like, what's the noise that we talked about? Like, what's the noise that's like keeping His voice quiet or in your life? Yeah, I think that's my favorite.
Yeah. Out of the few, I think that is my favorite too. I think that my favorite of all of them is there's a tripod stand of reconciliation, and it goes through like if you actually are sitting down with someone and it's like, let's sit down and work through this together, and here's a guide in how, or if you're desiring to reconcile with someone and praying into that situation, or if there's like a larger scale, like world or community wide or extended family wide kind of situation to be praying into. And I feel like it asks really hard questions and puts you in a spot to pray some things that maybe on your own you might not immediately go to. And I really love that one.
Yeah, that one's a bit more communal as far as its interaction.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. I've got a couple last questions that I like asking all of our guests. So this is just like lightning round, like just the first thing that pops into your mind.
Sure.
Okay. So you don't think too hard about these questions. All right. Are you game for it?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. What is the last book that you read?
We are currently reading a parenting book called Good Inside.
Yes. Yeah. It's a really good book.
Awesome. I'd love to hear your review when it's all done.
Yes.
If your job was something different than it is right now, what would it be?
Well, I think, well, I'm currently have two jobs. Like, so I do 3D animation on the side, but also I do One River. So, like, I guess maybe I would lean more into the 3D stuff.
Yeah,
But
I really have always had a heart for nonprofits and making the world a better place. So I think that I would aim to do more work in advocacy and how to right wrongs on a macro level,
yeah,
Mm,
or do
mm.
bookbinding.
or do art that helps achieve the same. But
She's being modest. She is professional bookbinder.
thank you, you're kind. I do really care deeply for prophetic art too, and I think that it can, especially when paired with prayer, I think that it can do a world of difference.
Mm. If you could travel to a place that you've never been before.
This is like spitfiring, so I'll just say like the thing that like came up in my mind just recently was the kids were talking about like, "Ooh, we're going over a bridge." And I was like, I just had this like flash image in my mind of going across one of those like really long footbridges like in the forest across rivers. That'd be really cool. I don't know, I don't know where that is, but it's somewhere in another country.
Anywhere you can find it.
Yeah.
Not
I think
in northeastern Oklahoma.
yes. I think some unnamed sandy, beautiful beach island that no one's been to. And
Ooh, no one's been to.
well,
Like
it doesn't have to be no one's been to, but like no one will come to while I'm there.
private.
You've got the
Okay,
island to yourself.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Do you have a comfort food movie? In other words, like a movie you could just watch 100 times and never get tired of it.
Age of Adeline's like up there for me. It's one of the more modern ones that's not like You've Got Mail age range. That like of modern movies, I think Age of Adeline would fit that category for me.
All right. And Tim, for you?
I would say Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Lord of the
Okay.
Rings.
What's your favorite place to eat a meal?
Like, are you talking about like restaurant or just like anywhere.
You can interpret it however you want.
Okay.
I think my favorite, just like of the memory, was like the docks. What, like, because it had like the music and the Christmas atmosphere, and it just was like, I think the atmosphere level was so peaceful. Atmosphere means a lot to me.
So, I mean, speaking of atmosphere, I'd probably have like some sort of like, it doesn't matter necessarily what the food, like we're foodies, but like having some really good food, like in the mountains, like overlooking the mountains.
Mm,
So
Big
clearly
nice.
the atmosphere.
Well, we actually really do care about food. We're ourselves.
Don't care what the food itself is, just the atmosphere. Yeah. If we were going out for karaoke, what is your song?
I honestly really don't like karaoke. No. No,
You
I
don't-
just, no.
You don't have a song,
I
not
don't.
Okay.
any song at all.
No. I'm
Okay.
always the one that's like, no, I will not go up there.
I can't think of any sort of song, but like any, like the oldies, like, you know, Memphis oldies. You would,
I would dance in my seat very happily.
but they would have to take you kicking and screaming to go off to the
Yes.
stage. Got it.
100%.
Okay.
I-
Last question.
Okay.
What would you say makes you laugh the hardest?
I think the hardest I've ever laughed is when I played a game called Fiasco. It's a really fun, it's like a very loose form role-playing game where you, like, the whole point of the game is big ideas and big burnout, like crashes on your ideas, basically. So it's like, it might be you're all in a research center out in the Antarctica, and like all the things that go wrong there with your science experiment, right? And so like you all come up with characters and your connections, and then it's just like, how bad does it go for your character? And it's really fun. So
So this is like a party game? I'm not familiar with it.
It is a party.
it's a bit of a party
Yeah.
game. Yes, maybe about like 4 to 5 people, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm honestly not sure what makes me laugh the hardest. I just know that when I do, it feels like so good.
Well, maybe give an example.
But I mean, but one thing that I feel like does make me laugh is, which I don't know, it sounds so cliche, but
Do you know?
yeah, reels that are very specifically aligned with parenting that just seem to really get me and like step right into the chaos of my life and make it comedic gives a certain it can be very, very funny and can help make lighthearted something that feels heavy. So
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for doing this today. If
Yeah.
listeners wanted to connect with you and your work, where can they learn more about One River?
So
Facebook's a good one.
Facebook is probably the best place to find us.
Or like at least what is ongoingly occurring.
Yeah.
Our email is oneriver, like one.community@gmail.com. And that's another easy way to reach us. But yeah, Facebook is the easiest place to see like ongoing updates.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for taking the time to do this today. And thank you, listeners, for being with us too. You can learn more about the ministry of the Sabbath Life on our website, thesabbathlife.com. You can find information there about booking a personal retreat for yourself or for a group at the Abbey of the Heights. And if you'd like to make a financial gift to support the ministry of the Sabbath Life, you can also do that on the website at thesabbathlife.com/give. We exist because of the generosity of people just like you. And then very last thing, be sure that you're subscribing to the podcast wherever you're listening to this so that you're able to catch the next stories that we share. If you like what you're hearing, please also leave us a review so that others can more easily find us here on the internet. And you can help us spread the word about the Abbey of the Heights and a life of rest. Until next time, may you know in the deepest parts of your soul that you are God's beloved.